Thank you for joining us for this special episode of What is Black? Today we're introducing a new podcast, Reading in Black, inspired by my upcoming documentary of the same name. On Reading in Black, we're going to dive deep into the conversation on Black identity and explore the impact of Black children's literature on how not only Black children see themselves, but how literature that is written, illustrated, and published by Black creators can make an impact on society by pushing forth narratives that are authentic and empowering. So join us for interesting conversations with Black creators. We'll celebrate our stories and our storytellers, and maybe you'll find a new book to add to your collection. So join us for this first episode where we speak with the creators of the new children's book, You So Black. I speak with the author, Teresa the Songbird, and illustrator, London Ladd. So I hope you enjoy this episode and stay tuned for Reading in Black. It's nice to have you all on the podcast, Reading in Black. So before we get started, the one question that I'd like to find out from you all is, what was the first book that made you feel seen? And I'll start with Teresa first.
Oh, that made me feel seen. That's a good one. I would probably say my mom bought me a children's book when I was little called Mufasa's Beautiful Daughters. And that has always stuck out in my mind as like seeing the African princesses on each page. That would be the book for me.
I think for me, I really didn't feel seen in books probably until my early 30s when I was in undergrad and looking at children's books by Kadir Nelson, E.B. Lewis, Jerry Pinkney, just looking at their work and see the representation that was on the pages of those books. So there's no specific books. I think they were more or less like illustrators and creators and artists like that really made me feel seen.
And so I think what you just mentioned, London, is really at the heart of why I created Reading in Black. This idea that I know I'm a little bit older, but I think for me too, like I couldn't say there was one book that made me feel seen when I was little. So that's why I really made it feel general, because I think the work that you all do, both as authors, entertainers, illustrators, right? You actually provide the means for kids to be seen, right? When in many spaces they don't feel seen. And so to get this affirmation from something tangible like a book, I think makes all the difference, because again, I was talked to so many friends, right, and family members and asked the same question. And for the most part, I get a lot of the same answers that London gave, right? I didn't see myself until I was older. And I'm hoping that this new generation of Black children, right, now have more opportunities to feel seen. And again, the work that you are putting out there not only makes them feel seen, right, but this idea of affirming Black children. So, books can be tools, right, to provide for Black children positive affirmations. And especially you, Teresa, right? I mean, your words are so strong, right? So your work started out as a poem and now into a book. So I'm just wondering, why is it so important, right, to see your words? And then I'll follow with London about the images that affirm Black children.
Well, piggybacking off of your first question about when you are, feel seen in a book, I come from a family of educators. So to come from a family of Black educators, women who made very specific choices about how they guided us, when the opportunity came for this book to happen, those are the people I thought about. It was so important to me that like the ideas, the intentionality of making sure that the kind of like the early programming of self-love is there.
And what about you, London, in terms of even seeing, being able to draw the pictures, right, so that you draw images so that kids can then see themselves or even see representations of family members or people like them in books?
I grew up in a family, basically a single parent household, and my mother, she was white. So for me, growing up farther removed from Black culture and understanding it. And I really didn't kind of get a grasp of it until I kind of did my own research in my teens and my 20s. So for me, it was like a sense of like trying to find myself as a person of color, as an African American. And with me, when I started to really get into children's books and creating them, I wanted to make sure that my work, a genuine reflection of the beauty of Black culture, not just that we are part of the civils, meaning the civil rights or the Civil War era, like that we are geniuses and beautiful now, and not a reflection solely of the past, of what certain identities are. So when I got a chance to really do, especially this book, I really had to kind of really find a way to really tap into a genuine spirit of Blackness that I felt would really identify with families, like Black families, just to kind of really make that connection of for myself with Blackness and the reflection of the work that I produce.
What I'm hearing you say, right, is that, I'm putting this, initially the question was in the context of how Black children feel affirmed. But what I also hear from you as well, right, is this journey of affirming ourselves, right, from childhood to adulthood is a continued process, right?
Yes.
And to be able to understand where we've been, where we are, and where we can be, right, are all in the process of understanding who you are in your unique, how you show up uniquely as a Black person.
Yes.
And so, and I'm just going to go back to Teresa. I think, again, the words on the page, I think, do that, right? So the images in the book that London illustrated show not only children, right, but adults, young people, right, this spectrum of identity and age. And I'm wondering your thoughts about when you originally wrote the poem, where you were and the thought of this idea of those three words, you so Black.
You so Black is like when you talk about the history of it, most people of color who have grown up in the environment of color have heard that phrase in tandem with like the dozens, whether it's you so Black or your mama jokes. And when you peel all of that back, it originates in the slave era, in a space of when we are being sold away from each other. It was our way of keeping the price low on our family members. So you take that idea, and of course you get further away from it, and it becomes you so Black, your mama jokes, and all that kind of stuff. But at the seed, it is grown from love. It is grown from a sense of protection. So my goal is always to like take it to the seed, take it to that place from love and protection, and to empower the words so that when you hear you so Black, it's that whatever that sting is immediately stripped off of it, because what resonates is, oh, I know a poem about being Black that says exactly that. And by the end of that poem, you can't tell me anything about my Blackness. And that is the desire to reclaim the seed of love and self-protection.
And again, what I'm thinking, but brought up to what you were saying, that brought into my mind was Maya Angelou's poem, Phenomenal Woman, Phenomenally, right? So this idea of, again, this lyricism and centering who, Phenomenal Woman is about centering, womanhood, right? You're centering this identity of who we are historically as being Black, and present day, our identity of Blackness. But I love the sentiment that, again, when someone says phenomenal woman, recites phenomenal woman, the same thing, I think hopefully the same thing resonates for someone when they say, you so Black, right?
Right.
I mean, I can't do the poem justice, all right, in terms of your words, but again, I love that idea, right? And again, going back to this idea of affirming children, right? Having, I can say, a parent reading this book to their child, right?
Yes.
It's like, you so black, you know, you,
Yes.
and if you don't mind, I might ask you later on if you wouldn't mind a few lines, reading a few lines from the book. I I just definitely love the message, right? This empowerment, joy, and reclamation that the story really is deep, right? It's deeper than the words, but at the same time, it's so powerful, so powerful.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
So, London, question for you. What is your process to lift the words and give them life, right? And put them into picture? I mean, I know you talked a little bit about wanting to connect to families and this understanding and historical context, right, of being Black and showing up as Black. But I'm just wondering what your process as an artist to do something like that for this book, to lift the words and give them life.
Well, listen to Teresa's amazing poem over and over and over, and really kind of embody the spirit and the cadence that she brought it out. That was the biggest I think that for me, if there was two things that were the most challenging as I began the process of creating this, is capturing her cadence. Because when you watch that YouTube, when I was first presented this book, I'll never forget, like somebody from the publishing house sent me a link and they're like, check this poem out and you may be illustrating this. And I remember I got a lot of goosebumps and I was just like, whoa. And I'm like, this is power. I've been illustrating books since 2008. And to me, this was like, whoa, this was a different level for me. So for me, when I was going into this, I had to come into a frame of mind where I had to almost spiritually level up my creativity to match the cadence and the power that she brought forth. That was the first thing. And the other thing is to really understand the importance of this book generationally. Not just for the kids and the families now, but I'm talking about when 10 years from now, 15, 20 years, when they are reading it it has to hold up where they can feel like generationally it can be passed down the next ones in their family, even though that won't help book sales, because if it's the same book they're passing down, well, maybe they'll buy 2 or 3 copies and keep passing them around. To really, as I said this before, honest. They respect honesty. You can't be fake. So if you come at it, come correct, you're going to be exposed, and they will call you out on it without any doubt. So for me, my process was to just make sure to talk to Black folks, do research, and really get into a space again where it really resonates, where they can understand what I'm trying to bring as an illustrator, as a creator, when I'm kind of sharing ideas. It makes sense. Like even like, the Black with privilege, Black with pride, Black on purpose on the Black hand side. I thought of Obama right there. Bam. That was one of the first images for that book where I was like, because it's privilege and pride. And especially when I was looking at his inauguration again, man, that was a long time ago. And I was just looking at it, and he's just raising his hand. He's got his hand on the Bible, and he's raising his hand. And he's got the Supreme Court justice, and he's got it. It's a cold day, and that's all I could think of. And that privilege and pride of achieving the highest office in this nation. So, it was like really coming into a space where it was being as, like I said, honest, capturing her cadence, and really understanding that the importance of this project, not just now, but in the future. If that makes any sense. That's a long way to explain a process. I'm sorry, because I am a very emotive illustrator, and I get into my projects. And this project, it was so powerful to me. I changed my grad school thesis on Black representation because of this book, and I really got into, because my thesis was about Black representation with certain writers and certain eras, and it melded everything together, and it was very therapeutic. So that was part of my process, as well, is really immersion.
I don't know how that makes you feel, Teresa. I mean, I have goosebumps with London talking about the impact your words had on him as he going through his creative process. So I don't know how that makes you feel.
Yes, definitely goosebumps. I'm over here like talking to my we're not gonna cry on this woman's podcast. That's what we're not gonna do today. But I am thoroughly moved. It is wonderful to see someone because me and London never been in the same room. This is the first time I have heard his voice. You know what I'm saying? Like to have someone who is relatively a stranger, like get it. Like he gets it. And that to me is the most profound feeling.
Well, thank you. Like, yeah, I'm looking at the screen and I'm seeing your face, and I'm like, oh God, I'm so nervous right now, and I was just like, I was kind of a little starstruck, so I was like, let me be quiet here, but I'm getting comfortable here.
Good.
Again, to me, this really, really speaks to the power of words, the power of books, right? The power of not just a message, right? Like this singular thought or word or a string of words, right? But it's you paint a picture, right? You paint in the sense that I think when I heard the same, when I heard your YouTube video to understand the rhythm, right, of the poem, the impact of the poem, right, and that spoken word. I mean, it was very powerful. And then to see it in the book with the pictures, right, with the illustrated pictures. I mean, I'm just imagining what I mean, I can feel like, I mean, this is art, right? This books are art, right? But this is really art, right?
Yes.
So yeah, so it's amazing. The one question that comes back to me, I think your how you show up, right? This our identity as our culture, right? Our Black culture comes out in the work that we do, or who we are, right? And so I'm just wondering, in general, what inspired both of you to even become a creator? Do you feel like it's like a chicken or an egg? You were born a creator, or did something make you a creator? Something that's just said like, oh, I can do this and I'm going to do this.
Well, yeah, for me, I've always kind of been a maker. I've always wanted to be on stage since I was a child. Like since I was like 3, I've always wanted to be on stage. So I knew that entertainment was coming for me. And I've always I'm the oldest. I was a busy kid, so crafts were always my thing. But when I turned 10, my mother had a brain aneurysm, and my mom worked in corporate America. She worked so hard, and she survived. She's doing great. I don't want you to think that this is like a super sad story. It's not. But as a 10-year-old, watching your mother go through something so stressful, and then hearing my mom say that, like, oh, that job is what broke my brain. At 10, I asked God, the universe, whatever power it is that you believe in, I asked to never have to work so hard for anybody else that it would break my brain. And if God could let me just the things that I'm capable of doing for myself, if He could allow that to sustain my life, I would be a happy camper. And when I tell you, everything that I've ever set my hand to is something that I can monetize and make a business from. So my creativity is my ultimate resource.
I guess creativity for me is, as a kid, I believe it or not, I loved comic books, animation and stuff. But I did some art when I was a child, but it wasn't until I really got into college that I really did art. Really thought like, man, I really want to pursue this and really create. And when I really started to kind of get into, I would feel like I kind of peaking now. I'm peaking. I'm ascending now. Not say peaking, because if I'm peaking, then I've reached my limit, and I don't think I've reached my. I'm still learning. I went to grad school. I just finished grad school at age 50, and it is the greatest experience that I've had up to this point in my life as an individual. For me, creativity is always been there, because being somebody who loved movies, comic books, the narration of things, I guess it was natural to be an illustrator, like, because you are the director, you are the cinematographer, you are the person who's in charge of costume design. And so I get to create these narrative elements to words, because I'm not a writer. I've been trying to write a book for the past 2 years, a picture book, and it's hard work. But the one thing with my creativity that I feel is a strength, and I said this before, is really immersing into the project. It really, because being an only child in a single parent household, I was by myself a lot, so I had to kind of find ways to be creative, not just in the artistic sense, whether it was like building things, building models, or anything like that. So for me, creativity in this realm, in this arena, it's like, I was thinking about this last night, where being a creator of images, I'm so thankful for, because you never realize the impact of the work that you do until you get the reception of others. And I guess I fuel myself with that, because I want to make sure that my stuff really speaks to those, especially African American, like like um, subject matter. Because it's easy to say, you got to paint animals, you got to paint, other races, but no, this is I thrive creatively on Black culture, African American, especially African American culture, because it's what I know. It's what I love. So my creativity is always kind of really, and I'm talking forever here. I'm sorry, I'm eating up your whole podcast time here, but I'm in a studio by myself, so when I get to share, I'm gonna talk as much as I don't get the gift of, and what Teresa does amazingly was just to kind of, speak so well out in the crowd. So I'm gonna share as much as I can as an illustrator. But for me, creativity is just loving what I do, and that's all I can really kind of say. I'm sorry if it doesn't answer the if I kind of went in a long way to say love. Basically, creation is about love.
No, I think I mean I think that's if that's your answer, that's the best answer, right? Because I think, again, for me, I think the idea for Teresa talked about like the seed, right? Like starting from like the root, this understanding, historically, that when Black people were enslaved years ago, right, we were denied the access of reading, writing, our own history, and telling our own stories, right? And so this idea that now, 400 years later, this legacy and this resilience and joy of creating, either just for our own love and purposes, or to share with others, it's so amazing, right? And again, London, you talked about how you hope that this book gets the thought process of the art that you drew, right? That this book would sort of almost be eternal, right? It would be generational, be a generational gift for other people. And knowing that in the roots of Black literature, right? That was one way that Black books got around. People, if they didn't have the means, they couldn't go to the library and get a library card, right? Whatever book they had, whatever magazine they had, they shared it. So that was a way to get the word out. So I think it's amazing.
Thank you.
So I want to do a segment on the podcast. It's called the give and take section, or segment, give and take segment. And so the idea that, we're talking about and giving to our listeners information about your book, but I'd also like for our listeners to take away something. So I would love your thoughts about what book or books you'd recommend for others to take away to enjoy either reading or learning more about.
Well, I have an awesome sister out of the Baltimore, Maryland area. Her name is B. Sharice Moore, and she is a science fiction young author, writer. And she has a book called Dr. Marvelous Jen's Odd Scholars. And she also has some other texts that she has written that kind of are guidelines for teachers who are looking for context to teach sci-fi, specifically Afrofuturistic sci-fi. And it like lines out class structure, worksheets. She's an awesome educator and an awesome writer and author. And I'm just really excited because I am a fan of sci-fi work. And it is a place, it's hard to find people who look like you in the realm of fantasy and magic.
I hate to say this, but I can't think of one specific book. Again, I think something that comes to mind right now. I mean, I'm a fan of illustrators that really move me creatively in the way they do their books, the way that they use their colors. I would say the one person right now that probably influenced, like, I just love their work, and I can always look at their work, is anything by Equa Holmes. She did the Fannie Lou Hamer book, A Voice of Freedom. I will say that I love that book. I'm looking at it right now. It's just a great book. It's just the colors, the way the artwork composed. It just I can't say enough about her work. Anything that she does, I just love. And so whenever she has something out, I will go get it. I will buy it, and so that's probably the best answer that I have.
All right, that works. That works. So I want to thank you both for joining me today on the podcast. And before we go, if you want to share any upcoming projects where people can learn more about you and follow you and just learn all the stuff about you.
Well, you can follow me everywhere at THA Songbird. It's thasongbird.com for the website. You can Google THA Songbird and find out everything you want to know about me. I am in the midst of writing my next children's book, and hopefully, God's all good grace and order, we are expanding that book into a scripted series.
Awesome. Congratulations.
Thank you.
I guess with me, I'm working on, I got a few picture books that I'm working on, right? So I'm in the lab with that. You can go to my website, londonladd.com. It's just like the city, LONDONLADD.com. You can follow me on Instagram. So I try to post as much as I can, but I'm very busy right now. I'll get back to posting more art. But I'm just kind of really working on some books and teaching editorial illustration at Syracuse University this fall. So I'm excited about that, to kind of really instruct and teach. That's something that's near and dear. And hopefully someday have my own a community center locally here in Syracuse for families to come and kind of learn and create art someday.
Awesome. Thank you so much, guys.
Thank you for joining us. We hope you enjoyed this episode. If you can, please rate, review, and share this episode. You can listen to us on Apple Podcasts, wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts. And you can also check us out on our website at whatisblack.co. And we look forward to sharing more great episodes and some upcoming announcements for this upcoming new season of What is Black, our 5th season. So stay tuned for more information, and we'll talk to you soon.